Welcome everyone. So we're going to continue with our transfiguration tier art. But before we start, let's get a flame of hope and creativity going for the world. And there we have it. May all beings benefit. Excellent. Now today, I think it is time to maybe just play a little bit with our masking fluid. I'm using a local masking fluid. It's not grand, it's literally student grade, but it does the job. So I'm just going to pour some into my dispensing bowl. So never shake your bottle because it will froth up and make thousands of bubbles, and that will just make your life very difficult. Right, alrighty, so I've decided to use my applicator brush and I'm gonna mask the entire key. I think this is gonna be so much easier for me to focus on the landscape and not worry about intruding into our beautiful butterfly key. So, without any further ado, let's use our masking fluid. I'm going to play you some beautiful music and let's get into it. So when you play with masking fluid, people have asked me in other videos, how thick must the layer be? Don't make it too thick, but try to just make an even coverage. Now, if this liquid feels intimidating to you, then I will suggest you get yourself a masking fluid pen. It almost looks like a corrector pen, and the masking fluid is like a light blue color. I think that's just going to be a lot easier for a beginner because it works like a pen. So please forgive if you hear a doggy crying in the background. Our neighbors has got a new puppy and the poor thing must now get used to being home alone, and there is not much I can do about it until the doggy has settled and acclimatized. So it's traumatizing for all of us, having to listen to this poor thing sob and cry all night long. But anyway, let's just focus on what we do want to have here. Right. The key is quite a powerful symbol in magic. It is like an awakening, and you realize that you have the keys to create anything you want. The keys to your life, and it's quite a responsibility to own it, because for so many years as humans we fight for our freedom and our independence and whatever, but most of our human lives we are taught how to behave. Oh, I'm making drips. Well, those are going to be beautiful little fairy lights then. So getting back to the key, I'll be sharing some key information with you guys about the key. Why does it feel to me like I'm slightly off center today? So, what is your impressions about the key? What does it communicate to you when you look at this image? I always like to, look at our lives in this way, looking at symbology and how we can interpret it to fit into our lives. And What information is it giving to you? You're making beautiful progress. The keys to the kingdom, your inner kingdom, and then with the butterfly wings, it becomes a symbol of transformation and of change. And that is exactly what the transfiguration tier is all about. All of the exercises that we do on the transfiguration tier is about personal growth and resilience and looking at that transformation through the eyes of a spirit guide animal that shows up in our classes, metaphorically, symbolically, as a symbol to encourage growth, encourage change, and in that process we develop personal resilience. The canvas can be such a patient teacher, and over the last few years, my personal transformation through my art practice has been astounding, going from 0 to 100. 17 years ago, I was still sitting on the couch, hoping to paint one day like some of the people that I've been following. And there came a day when I realized that, I'm waiting for myself. There's no event that's magically going to show up in my life that's going to go poof, there you go, now you can paint. It doesn't matter how many videos you watch, how many classes you attend, how many art supplies you buy, how many courses you enroll for but never actually paint. There comes a day when you have to take up the brush like it is your wand, and you have to just dive in and begin. And as satisfying as it was, there was plenty of time and period in that journey where I felt, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not an artist, and I'm just figuring things out as I go here, and I didn't go to art school, all of those things. And it was during my Creatively Fit training program with Whitney Freya that I realized, you know what? You are the artist of your life. And it was during my love of therapy training in my diploma in modern applied psychology where I realized a lot of things. That's why I'm so stoic in my approach, and I really do lean into that understanding that you can find meaning in your life, even in your suffering. And when we find meaning and we begin to live with purpose and being soul directed in our lives instead of ego directed, your whole life change in front of your eyes. And I just always knew that there was a very, very particular task for me as a soul in this incarnation, and I am busy with it. This community that I've created here and the work that we are doing in this community through art is exactly what I came here to teach as a soul. And I want to encourage you guys to get into it. There's a reason why you have enrolled with me on Patreon, and there's a reason why you are following me on YouTube and you are in my group in Facebook. We are soul tribe. We are having soul contract to share and to be supportive to each other, and my job is to activate your creative heart and to remind you that your creativity or magic, which is one and the same thing, is already within you. There is not a single being on this planet that is not creative. And my biggest job is to help people see that there's a big difference between creativity and artistic talent. The people in general confuse the two. We look at people that can paint and sew and create things, and we call them talented. And that might be so, but I promise you 90% of this talent that you are ascribing to this artist is practice, practice, practice. It doesn't just come naturally. There's very few people on this planet where things just come naturally at a young age. And those are gifted souls. Yes, I agree. But we are not to compare ourselves with gifted souls, because you are gifted too. You're just sitting on your gifts. You're ignoring your gifts. You're putting it under a bucket, and you are hoping it will go away because you're either embarrassed about it, you carry shame around it, or you carry guilt around it. And it's not necessary. It's okay to experience your life and to want to, maybe you have a brother or a sister that you think is more creative than you, and you don't want to steal their thunder. But that's not what this work is about. This work is not about producing products. This work is not about becoming an artist that is going to sell paintings and become famous. It's not a career path necessarily for everyone, but that does not mean that you can't spend time in a creative practice and to use it as a way to process your emotions, to clear your mind, to calm down your spirit, and to receive clarity about who you are and where you want to go and what you want to experience in your life. And creating art is definitely one of the surest ways to manifest that in your life. So if you still have an old world view around art and making art and having an art practice, I want to challenge you today to really look at that belief system, because you are just holding yourself back. There is just such an amazing treasure that you can find when you finally let go of this notion that this is not for you. Even though you can't stop watching videos about creating art, you get drawn to art supply store like a moth to a flame, and you're constantly looking at your friends and everyone else in your community that is creating art, and in a way you envy them. In a way you say, I wish I could paint like Gideon, or I wish I could paint like Sandra, or I wish I could do this or I could do that like such and so. But you know what? Those people are in your life to inspire you, to remind you that, they are mirrors of you. So if I am in your life and you are watching my videos and you're still holding back to create, let this be the sign you're waiting for. What are you waiting for? Get the paper out, get the brush out, get your paint and start slapping paint on there. It doesn't matter what it looks like. What is important is what it makes you feel. And sometimes you're going to feel wow, and you're going to feel this is amazing, look at this. And other times you're going to go, this isn't very pretty. Who cares? Because in that moment you get an opportunity to practice self-love, self-acceptance, self-worth through your art. It is such a profound practice and experience. I really want you to experience it with me because it changed my life. It saved my life, in fact, from apathy, depression, and directionlessness and restlessness, and like, what's the point of this all? Because I didn't feel called to do anything in particular. I'm not good at sports, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at academia. So, you know, not all of us can become doctors and lawyers and engineers. And some of us have a soul calling in this lifetime, in this incarnation, to be the artist, because we are here to balance frequency on the planet. We have far more important jobs than to build bridges and to stand in court and to cut open bodies and sew them back together. Very important jobs, don't misunderstand me. But the job and the calling of the artist's soul at this particular time on our planet, there is a reason why you are attuned to creative frequency, even though you might not actively create art yet. Let this be the year where you finally pick up the brush and begin to let it flow. And while we're on that topic, I've recently learned something very powerful about art mediums, and I want to share it quickly while we wait for this gum to dry. You get liquid mediums in art like this, and then you get hard mediums like pencils, pastels, oil pastels, anything that you have in your hand with a stick, charcoal, pencils, you know what I mean. This is hard form of art, and for some people, that, especially if you're a person that likes to be in control, maybe a controlled medium in art like pencil or the ones that I've mentioned is the way to go for you. Maybe you like to have very controlled feelings of putting in color, and I explored this briefly this past Sunday in Sunday Grimoire, and that is fantastic, because if you're a control freak, then I will suggest that you get or invest into an adult coloring book and get yourself some crayons or pencils and begin coloring in, because it's going to make you feel safe. You can control the medium, it doesn't run away with you, and that process of sitting with that adult coloring book and coloring in, it gives you exactly the same benefits as me drawing a butterfly and a key and painting it in watercolor. Flowy mediums like watercolor, paint, acrylic, oils, any paint medium is a softer medium, and that is really opening us up to the flow of emotion. But there is so much things to think about and to control, that in the beginning, if you are a little bit more of a control personality type, the flowy mediums might freak you out. It might bring up too much emotion for you to process at any particular time, and it's something that you have to ease into. So maybe watercolor is not the place for you to start with your art journey. So you listening to me now will identify if you are a control person or not. And if you're a control person, start with control art medium, because that's going to be your ally. If you're like me, I don't like control. I don't want a restriction. I want freedom. Then dive into watercolor, dive into acrylics, do paint pouring kind of techniques, because it is in that flow and in that expressivity that you are finally going to hear your own soul speaking to you. So the medium that you start off with in your art practice and art journey is also important. Collage can be a very structured way of getting into art. And yes, in the beginning, they say take magazines, tear it out and stick it together. But that can also be very triggering to people, because there might be images that happen in collage or that appear on the papers that you've torn and selected. That can trigger trauma or memories. So it's not always the best way, albeit easy. So even in collage, if you're very traumatized and triggered and whatever, and you don't have emotional support around you, then you can also do collage in a very controlled manner through selecting papers and stickers and that kind of thing in a genre that you feel is safe and uplifting, rather than doing scary stuff or just ripping things out of magazines and not knowing what's going to hit you. So whichever medium you begin with, choose a medium that calls to you. Choose a medium that you really feel excited to begin with. And then, for Pete's sake, please begin. Stop procrastinating. This week's energy reading brought up the dragonfly, and the dragonfly is a reminder that tomorrow isn't promised. So if you're going to do it, start today. Stop putting it into the future, because if you keep doing that, you'll never paint, you'll never create, you'll never have a creative practice, because you are always pushing it into the future. The time to start with your creative practice is today, even if you just doodle with a pencil on a blank piece of paper for 5 minutes. Whatever you can reach out to and begin to use, please, I encourage to do that, because you're going to see how beneficial it is to you. So thank you for spending some time with me today as I masked this beautiful key of transfiguration. With our next session, I'm going to begin to paint in the landscape in the background and focus all my energy on that. And once I've done the whole background, then I will remove the masking fluid and we're going to look at our beautiful butterfly key. So I will see you guys again real soon. Stay creative. Bye bye for now.